Well, it's one of the best matches to look forward to in the Premier League, and we get it on Sunday afternoon. Let's hear from both sets of managers about the rivalry.
Now, when I played, it was between us and Arsenal to win the league. So that was a fierce, very fierce rivalry. There's all sorts of stories about what's been happening, and I don't have to rip up in all them, but that's the passion, the excitement, the importance of those games. Of course, we knew if we'd beat Arsenal and take 6 points from them, that'd be us winning the league more or less, and vice versa. So there's been some unbelievable games and some fun memories, some bad memories. Of course, now there's still the rivalry, there's still the history, but now it's just we don't think about them as our rivals or anyone as our rivals. We just need to put points on the board, and it's so early in the season anyway.
In the Premier League, the history of this clash is huge. I remember times between Arsene and Sir Alex, and the confrontation with players. They were fighting for the league. It was always really, really tight. So it was probably the biggest clash in the Premier League, and I'm excited to go to Old Trafford. They can play 2-3 different formations. We know that they've been changing in some things because of the opponent, sometimes because of the quality of the players that they have, sometimes to change the game in certain moments. We have to be prepared for that because they have that adaptability. They have a big squad, and up front they have all sort of options as well to do different things. For sure, our mindset is going to go there and try to win the game, and that's the approach that we're going to have, and that's the game plan that we're going to put to go there on Sunday.
This is a huge game, this one, and Mark, this is Ollie's 100th game as Manchester United manager in all competitions. He's won 56 games. Yeah. The thing with Manchester United, inconsistency. It'll either be, if they win 3, it's Ollie's doing a great job, Ollie's at the wheel, or if they lose, Ollie out. Where are Manchester United?
I've tried to answer that question in a piece I wrote this week, and I don't know. I mean, he's either on track or he's going around in circles, because whenever they get a big win, everyone's thinking, oh, it's great, Ollie's at the wheel, and then, like you say, a bad defeat against Tottenham, Pochettino. And it's stop-start, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and they were fantastic in midweek against Leipzig, 5-0. Everything worked for him. His team selection worked, his changes worked, his tactics worked, the substitutions came at the right time. But then you can see him in other games, and it's awful. Like the Tottenham game, the 6-1 defeat, it looked like the defence hadn't been coached for 2 years. So after 100 games, I don't see a straightforward plan or a route ahead. I just don't know what the philosophy is. I don't know. It still feels very much kind of game to game, and it shouldn't do after 100 games.
John, is this just the fickle nature of football, that's how fans feel when they go on a bit of a run of not winning games, and then when things are good, they're all happy again and saying Ole's at the wheel? Or is there something more to be said about him as a manager?
No, I think it is the fickle nature of football, and there are lessons to be learned from stability. If you look at Jurgen Klopp, for example, where his first 2 years at Liverpool, his record wasn't any better than Brendan Rodgers. But the fans, the hierarchy, the players, everybody bought into what he wanted to do, even when things may not have been going well. And you can see the outcome of that. Now, it's surprising that Ollie's at 100 games, and from Ollie's first game, it's always been, as you say, from 2 wins, 2 defeats, is he the man, is he not the man? It has to come to this stage, and as I said, you look at experience. Sir Alex Ferguson's first 4 or 5 years at Man United. If you know you have the right man and you believe he's the right man, you stick with him, Jurgen Klopp. Now, if Man United lose on Saturday, or if they play well on Saturday, they shouldn't get carried away either way. They shouldn't all of a sudden they win 4-0 to then say, right, we're back, we're going to win the league. And if they lose, it shouldn't be, let's get rid of Ollie. You have to decide that we're going to stick with him. And once that happens, everything settles down. The players know from week to week, it doesn't matter what happens, because we're still good enough to win, that Ollie's going to be the man, and we support him and we go along with him. And he has the authority and the autonomy to shout at us, to scream at us, to do whatever he wants. Whereas I think at Manchester United, they don't have that. I think Manchester United, their performances are determined by whether the players are going to perform or not. Which one week they can, the next week they can't, and they're not accountable. Because if they don't perform, Ollie gets the blame. If they perform, they're great.
And also, despite the fact that fans aren't allowed in the stadiums at the moment, home form is really important to football fans. And we've just seen there, the home form of Manchester United this season hasn't been good. They're yet to win at home in the Premier League. They got their first home win in the Champions League this week. And going on a bit of a run at home will make a huge difference, and especially picking up a win against Arsenal in this fixture.
Yeah, it's been terrible, hasn't it? I think, is it 9 goals against, 2-4? It's not been a good start. And I think it kind of started creeping in the last season when I think they played West Ham and it was a 1-1 draw. They needed to win the game. And what you find at Old Trafford is that they're not pushing on in the last 20 minutes of the game, or that they're not being driven on by the fans. And Solskjaer is one of these managers that never comes off his bench. So he's also not driving the team on from the touchlines. And in a game like that, or when you need something from the touchline, you need your manager there. Klopp would never sit back. Guardiola would never sit back. I think Ollie... The problem with Ollie is that John mentions Liverpool, and Klopp came, when it was difficult for the first 2 years, Klopp had this great success at Dortmund to fall back on. You know, Champions League final with Dortmund, two Bundesliga titles, so he had the credentials. Ollie's credentials are...
Club legend.
He knows the Man United DNA, and he scored a goal in a European Cup final 20 years ago. That's it, because his managerial record doesn't stack up. Sacked by Cardiff after less than a year, and a bit of success in Norway with Molde. So big players aren't going to look at Ollie and think, yeah, he's the man, because his credentials don't stack up. You have to impress players. You have to impress them with your track record or what you're doing, and I don't know if Ollie can do that either way.
So, John, what is his philosophy? When you watch Manchester United play, you know, in recent weeks now, he plays with 2 number 6s, McTominay and Fred, you know, and then Fernandes as a 10, you know, and to go on the counter-attack, as they've done in the last 2 games. PSG, they were good in the Champions League. Leipzig, they were good in the Champions League. What's his philosophy when you watch Manchester United? What do you think?
I don't know what Manchester United, I don't know what his philosophy is. And what I do know is that he likes to, as he said before, talk about the old Manchester United way, which doesn't exist anymore, and you can't go back. Liverpool fans were accused of living in the past by Manchester United fans. When the dynasty ended and any manager came, they were under pressure to do, this is what the Liverpool way is, this is what the Liverpool way is. So when we've had managers in the past, they've been under pressure to recreate that. Manchester United are doing the same thing since Fergie left. Because when Van Gaal came, who won the Champions League, a great manager, they should have said, what do you want to do? Forget about 2 wingers and how we play. But he wasn't allowed to do that. Mourinho, the same thing. And now I think Ollie's trying to, when he first came, let's get back to that. But that is not, you have to stamp your own authority and your own philosophy, which is what Jurgen Klopp has done. Forget about what Liverpool did. This is what I'm going to do. And players go along with that. So I'm not sure what his philosophy is. I think the players drive how Manchester United are going to play. I don't mean in terms of picking the team, but in terms of when you are on the pitch, you do what you want to do, which is not what happens at Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp says, if you're a 3 midfield player, if you're going to play in that position, this is what happens. I don't see an identity of Manchester United.
I think as well that what he just said then about the Arsenal game, that tells you how much United are looking to the past now, talking about what a big game it was. This game hasn't been the biggest game for 15 years, at least. You know, United and Arsenal are no longer the big two, and both these clubs are stuck in the past a little bit, talking about what happened 15, 20 years ago. And it really is a long time ago. The big rivalry is now Liverpool, Man City. You know, Chelsea back in the Shea Cup. But Man United, Arsenal, it's a big game, but it's not. It's 10th versus 15th, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually the first time since Opta started recording stats that both of these teams are in the bottom half of the Premier League table when they're facing each other.
Wow, really?
Yeah, first time ever.
Wow.
Since Opta stats began. And that really just goes to tell, doesn't it, John?
And of course, you know, when you have the history of Liverpool, then all of a sudden that dynasty's ended, and then Manchester United, that ended. Arsenal with Wenger, that ended. So, of course, you know, and Manchester United with Fergie, these are 2 managers who are still under pressure because of past glories, whereby that should be forgotten about and say, let's start something new.
And it's quite sad as well, because this game was massive. For 4 or 5 years, it was a massive game, and there's so much needle there, so much at stake. Every time they met for 4 or 5 years, there was a title at stake or European play, you know, really big game. And now I don't even know what it means now.
Oh no, it's a huge game now.
They want to get to the top half of the table.
Playing to stay up. Relegation battle.
You talk about Ollie's philosophy. I think we know what Arteta's philosophy is, Mark.
Well, yeah, so the Community Shield against Liverpool, it looked like he's got the back four sorted. He wants to work from the back, get the midfield tight. He's brought in Thomas Partey, who's made a big difference. But it all revolves around Aubameyang, doesn't it? He creates a solid base so that Aubameyang can finish it off at the other end. But the problem is, if he's injured or not playing, it falls apart, and he's not scored since he signed his contract.
First game of the season, wasn't
First
it?
game, yeah.
So when he's not scoring goals, Arsenal suddenly look a little bit one-dimensional. So he has to find a way to get rid of the over-reliance on Aubameyang.
Aubameyang's actually only had 5 shots at goal in the last 4 games.
Yeah, because he's playing in a way, because he's not playing as a centre forward. He's playing, coming in from left to right, coming out wide. And when you're on form and you're playing well and you've got creativity, as Man City do, because of course their wide players can come in because that's the way they play. Liverpool, our wide players score the goals because that's the way we play. It's a little bit strange bringing Partey in because he's not a creative player. He's a ball winner. So therefore, are they going to be more creative to get Aubameyang on the ball? So he's trying to find a way of really trying to get Aubameyang going. So it's going to be difficult for him, I think.
You know, you were talking earlier about kind of the main player at a team, John, and how you should kind of revolve your team around that player when we were talking about Wilfried Zaha.
No, I think if you're a small club, you can have a main player to revolve it around him. Big clubs can't do that because, as he said, if he gets injured and breaks his leg, Arsenal shouldn't say we can't compete because Aubameyang is injured. Maybe Palace can. But I think that with Arsenal doing that, that's quite dangerous because, as he said, with Aubameyang getting injured, it could be a problem.
On about smaller clubs, you're right there, because at Birmingham we had Christoph Dugarry. Get the ball to Dugarry as often as you can. Do you know what I mean? When we was at Blackburn, we had Benny McCarthy, Rocky Santa Cruz, Craig Bellamy. Get the ball to those forward players.
But big clubs shouldn't rely on any one player.
But the problem is with Arsenal, it's almost getting to the point now, if you stop Aubameyang, you stop Arsenal. And they need to kind of find a way. Obviously, Mesut Ozil's out of the conversation completely. Lacazette hasn't done enough this season. Nicola Pepe, you just don't know which one's going to turn up. But it is so reliant on Aubameyang.
But the interesting thing is that because he did so well, the focus then became on him. When he first came in, he was doing okay, but Lacazette was scoring, and they expected a lot from Pepe. It has a lot to do with, a little bit like if you look at Steven Gerrard, for example, at Liverpool. When everything was about Steven Gerrard, it was all about him. The team weren't doing well, but it's all about Steven. Once Steven Gerrard left and we went, what we're going to do, then everybody else came to the fore. And if you're in a big club, all of these players should be able to perform without relying on any one player. Because if Aubameyang gets injured or he's not playing, you will see Pepe, you'll see Lacazette, you'll see other players stepping up because they're good players. That's why big clubs should never rely on any one superstar player.
Yeah, in terms of Arsenal's record at Old Trafford, though, it's not great. Manchester United unbeaten in 13 games at home against Arsenal.
Look, with no crowd, there's no home and away these days. It's just one of those things.
I'm surprised at that. Especially in recent seasons, because United have been so poor. And so the fact that Arsenal haven't been able to kind of end that run, one win since 2006.
But you made the point about the crowd. And with no crowd there, as I said, with no crowd there, it's a home fixture because you're playing at home. And there are certain clubs who respond better with their no crowd. I think Aston Villa are one. I think West Ham are one.
Yeah.
And I think that, and you mentioned Manchester United and Sheffield United, with a crowd, will drive them forward. It's a surprise that they're down where they are, but with no crowd, they're a club who aren't inspired by playing in front of empty stadiums. So Arsenal going to Man United with no crowd, I don't think is an advantage to Man United.
Have you been to any games without fans there, John?
I have. Last season, which was even stranger. I've not been this season, and it's just a very strange atmosphere. And players are the same. Some players respond. Some players play better when there's no crowd. Some players who can't handle the pressure of 50,000 people play much better. So the old adage of players need a crowd to inspire them to perform, that's not true for everybody.
That's why Everton are top of the league, because the Everton crowd are very demanding and critical and very quick to jump on the players.
Absolutely.
And they're taking that away and they're playing with freedom.
Absolutely.
We've just seen that stat there about Arsenal going to Old Trafford then. I'm going to put you both on the spot. Let's get a prediction. We're going to see Robbie's later. What do you reckon?
I think because of the Leipzig result and the euphoria around that, I think Man United will win.
Because United are so unpredictable after the Leipzig result, I'm going to go for a draw.
I could have done that. Listen, what we're saying is we really don't know. I think it depends on which Man United turns up. Not so much with Arsenal. Arsenal will do what they do, but I think depending on which Man United turns up will determine the result.
To be fair, predictions this season, they're almost pointless, aren't they, Robbie? Because no one's getting them right. We'll see how you got on last week with your predictions, and we'll see what you've gone for this week at the end of the show. Right now.